The day King Robert's decree was read aloud in the echoing hall of the Red Keep, Cersei Lannister felt the edges of her world splinter like glass dropped upon marble. She did not rage. Rage belonged to fire, and fire exhausted itself. Instead, what unfurled within her was a brutal cold that clenched tight around every heartbeat. "Exile to Essos," Robert had pronounced in a voice roughened by wine and grudging pity. Exile for a queen who could not be killed without provoking half the realm, yet could no longer be trusted at his side. The small folk in the throne room strained for a glimpse of the fallen lioness. They saw only the tilt of her pale throat as she lifted her chin, the slow flare of her nostrils, a silent promise that each whisper of triumph would be remembered. Beside the Iron Throne, Ned Stark's face stayed remote, gray eyes fixed on a point beyond her shoulder. Duty, always duty, even in another's humiliation. By the seventh sunset, Grand Maester Pycelle droned. The Lady Cersei shall have quitted King's Landing, there to sail across the narrow sea and remain, a single blade of a word, severing her from her children, her brother, her power. Yet she bowed, because she must, and let the chill seep deeper, turning marrow to iron. It was Varys who escorted her from the city gates at dawn, where mist coiled over the black water like dying breath. "Your Grace," he murmured, "your ship awaits." Even now he spoke as though she still wore a crown. Beneath the hooded cloak some loyal servant had pressed upon her. Cersei studied the spider's placid smile. He trafficked in secrets. Let him carry this sight of her, bereft yet unbroken, into every shadowed corner of Westeros. Let them all wonder what winter she would send back to them. A single wagon bore her trunks, wolf pelts, silks, a few flasks of Essos nightshade cradled in velvet. No golden lions emblazoned the leather. Banners invited arrows. Still, the horse team stamping in the cold smelled of the stables at Casterly Rock, and that scent pricked memory like needles. When the city walls vanished behind a scrub of frost-silvered trees, Cersei drew off her glove and laid her bare fingers to the iron of the wagon's sideboard. It was not gold, but metal was metal, and metal could be forged. The Whisper, a Braavosi galley with striped sails, rocked against its moorings at Duskendale. Its captain, Moredo Rogar, bowed so deeply his braids brushed the deck. "My lady, Essos holds temples to every fortune. We will reach Pentos with a fair wind. Pentos, home of merchant princes fattened on spice and slave gold." Cersei's lip curved. Pentos would suffice, for now. Gold moved more swiftly than rumor upon the eastern continent, and she possessed enough of one to master the other. Below decks, lantern light lapped across polished wood. She commanded 2 adjoining cabins, the larger for herself, the smaller for her maid, a shy girl from the Westerlands, whose name slid from memory. Names had always mattered less to Cersei than faces. Faces were canvases on which she might paint gratitude or fear. Night rolled across the sea, corrugating waves into black ridges. She stood at the stern rail, wind whipping her hair free of its net. Each gust bore the salt of distance, of things cast off and things yet unclaimed. Jaime, Dai, Joffrey, Dot, Myrcella, Dot, Tommen. The syllables drifted like flotsam she dared not seize. She could not picture them without tasting blood, could not swear she would ever see them again. So she pressed the ache into the hollow where her crown had rested, and let the emptiness harden. The narrow sea widened into the temperate wine dark of the summer sea, and days fell into a cadence of sail creaks and gull cries. Cersei learned the vessel's every groan, the dialect of its ropes. Knowledge was a knife, and she would not cross water unarmed. She dined each evening at the captain's table, a silent court where Braavosi traders and Taroshi dye masters jostled to flatter the exiled queen. She granted them cool nods, measured smiles, nothing more. Easier to rule from a distance. Let them imagine the ferocity behind her restraint. One dusk, A storm shouldered over the horizon, black as a crow's wing. As sailors scurried to reef sail, Cersei climbed to the quarterdeck. Lightning flared, carving her silhouette from the darkness, and thunder rolled like 1,000 lances breaking on shields. Rain struck, first needles, then nails. She did not retreat. In that hammering deluge, memory rose. The sept of Baelor collapsing in verdant flame, the roar of wildfire devouring Tyrell roses, and faith, militant alike. She had been a goddess then, crowned in green glory. Now she stood crownless under foreign sky. Yet the storm bowed around her, sheets of rain sluicing off cloak and flesh, as though world itself washed her sins away. When dawn cracked the clouds, the whisper limped through choppy swells. But alive, Moredo found her at the prow, hair plastered to her cheeks, eyes bright as burnished copper. He stared as men stare at portents. "You weather tempests as though born of them," he whispered. "Cersei, let a slow smile bloom, and tempests are born for me." Pentos rose from the sea like a rust-hurt coin, crenellated walls glittering with morning dew. At the quay, the Magister Illyrio Mopatis awaited her arrival, rings winking on every finger. Behind him stretched a procession of litter-bearers, guards in copper scale, and servants carrying trays of sugared dates. "Lady Cersei," Illyrio purred, bowing beneath layers of brocade, "Pentos weeps for your misfortune and sings for your presence." Cersei extended her hand. "See to it she sings loudest." Illyrio's manse sprawled across a hill of fragrant gardens. Marble corridors echoed with water music from hidden fountains. Yet opulence did not dull Cersei's vigilance. She spoke little during the feast he laid at her feet, sampling thick-stuffed quail and honeyed locusts, while Illyrio regaled her with gossip of free cities' politics. Gossip she filed away like coins minted of lesser metals. That night, she paced the balcony outside her chambers, eyes sweeping over torchlit rooftops. Somewhere beyond, the Golden Company drilled beneath watchful captains. In Volantis, elephant banners gathered. In Marine, a silver queen chased dragons. The board was vast, pieces scattered, yet every piece held purpose for one who knew the game. She turned to the maid, Aura, that was her name, who hovered near the threshold. "Find me parchment and ink, then rouse the captain of my guard." Aura blinked. "Your guard, my lady." Cersei's gaze sharpened. "Is there any other?" A fortnight later, word traveled the Whispering Lake Road. A Westerosi lady paid thrice the going rate for blade hands willing to pledge 6 moons' service with promise of more. Sellswords bled from the cracks of Pentos like ants from a kicked mound. Myrish crossbowmen, Lysine duelists, 2 dozen Endati archers famed for arrows tipped in Strangler's serum. They assembled at Illyrio's lower court, restless under the weight of curiosity. Cersei descended marble steps in a gown of midnight velvet, a single lion brooch at her breast. Silence rippled forward as she walked. She halted before them, hands clasped behind her back like a general inspecting ranks. "I will purchase your swords," she said. Her voice was low, iron-filed, carrying in the stillness. "I will pay more than any merchant prince, more than any freedman queen, more than the Golden Company's muster wage. But I do not seek mere hirelings. I seek loyalty." A murmur. Someone spat. Loyalty cost more than diamonds among men who traded blood for coin. Cersei let the doubt swell, then cut it down. "I was queen of the 7 kingdoms," she said, "and I will be queen again. Stand with me now, and when I return to Westeros, those who served shall hold lands, titles, castles. You will be lords where once you were sellswords, or refuse and watch others claim what might have been yours." She paused until the promise settled like gold-weighted purses at their feet. Decide. The first knee sounded like a drum, then another. Steel rang as blades planted point down upon marble. Cersei breathed, slow and deep, the taste of victory mingling with rose-scented air. It was not yet an army, 80 men at most, but it was a beginning. Months passed within Illyrio's manse, but Cersei measured time in acquisitions. 20 mummers, whose sleight of hand became espionage. 3 blacksmiths, with forges stoked to birth lion-sigilled armor. A bravo sea gambler, whose debts bought her a ledger of shipping schedules along the narrow sea. Each night she dined with Illyrio, feeding him sweet lies about longing for her children, letting tears glisten when she spoke of Joffrey's smile. Illyrio lapped sorrow like cream, blind to the sharpened claws beneath. One evening, as dusk bled violet over the bay, he presented her with a gift. A tapestry stitched in red and gold silk, depicting Lan and a clever tricking Casterly rock from the Casterlys. "May it remind you of home," he said. She traced the cunning smile woven into Lan's face. "Home is where victory waits." Illyrio's laughter trembled like a lute string. Perhaps he thought her ambition quaint. Perhaps he believed he pulled the threads. Cersei allowed him the illusion. Let the fat magister inflate with pride. Fatter prides crashed harder to the earth. Her captains trained recruits in a field beyond the city walls. Drilling until dawn set helms aglow. Cersei watched from horseback, noting the gait of each squadron, the discipline of their shield wall, the snap of banners she had sewn herself. The lion of Lannister roared crimson upon cloth, jaws parted for conquest. Yet Sel's words were fickle as wind, and gold alone chained nothing for long. She needed oath-bound knights, men raised in Westeros who understood the weight of a sigil. So letters flew to Braavos, to Tyrosh, to old Volantis, carried by pigeons, by ragged sailors, by a sellsword maiden with a silver tongue. Letters sealed with wax, stamped by a lion's head. To Sir Bonifer Hasty, disgraced by failure to defend the sept. To Sir Osmond Kettleblack, festering in a Lysine gale. To Sir Ilyn Payne, voiceless yet not witless. Promises bloomed like blood-red roses on parchment. Pardon, power, a return to glory. Some replies were ashes. Others came in steel. By the time the pale moon of the 5th month crowned the sky, 47 Westerosi knights had slipped into Pentos under false names, pledging their blades to Cersei of the Lion Gate. She unveiled her banner at midsummer, a golden lion rampant upon a field half crimson, half black, as though Lannister and Shadow entwined. Beneath it, she spoke to her gathered host, now 500 strong, of a realm ruled by children, sparrows, and broken oaths. She painted images of hooves thundering across the reach, mists rolling down the neck, the roar of war horns at the gates of King's Landing. Her words were oil upon tinder. The men cheered, beating spear to shield. In their eyes, Cersei glimpsed reflection of the woman she had imagined in childhood, a queen astride a world too small to contain her. War-bred steel required coin. Coin required trade. Trade required ships. Cersei sat with merchants in smoke-thick taverns, wagering casks of arbor gold on spice routes and slave auctions. She watched them handle dice, watched their rings gleam, listened to boasts of profits tripled in Slaver's Bay, and she thought of dragons. Dragons. The very whisper set the free cities aflame with rumors. A Targaryen girl, Daenerys Stormborn, marched from Meereen with fire on her heel. Dragons melted chains. Dragons burned fleets. Dragons carved empires in ash. If dragons could be won through coin, alliance, or betrayal, Westeros would fall in a single night. But dragons bowed to no one save blood and fear. Cersei would need other beasts. She summoned a master of war elephants from Korth, invited him to display his charges upon the fields outside Pentos. Under a scorching sun, she approached the nearest creature, its gray hide ridged like ancient stone, its tusks capped in steel. With a gloved hand, she brushed its cheek. The elephant's dark eyes stared back, unblinking. They can trample cavalry, scatter spear lines, the handler boasted. Cersei smiled. And how do they fare against wildfire? He faltered. Sweat beaded his brow. Wildfire, my lady? She turned away. Everything burns. Illyrio, wary now, pressed her to delay. The 7 kingdoms have seen enough war. Better a quiet return, a marriage alliance. Marriage? The word cracked like a whip. I was sold once. I'll not be bartered again. Illyrio dabbed his brow with a lace kerchief. Forgive me, but you will need allies greater than sellswords. Cersei leaned close. Greater than a queen reborn. Watch, Magister. The realm will rally to me when they see whose blood I spill first. She left him trembling in perfumed corridors and did not glance back. Autumn's breath cooled the gardens. Orange leaves drifted across mosaic paths. Cersei donned a jerkin of black leather, a lion wrought in gold thread glimmering at her throat. She rode to her encampment, where 5 warg elephants lumbered amidst tents. Knights drilled. Arrows thudded into straw men, painted with stag sigils. Dusk she called her captains to the command tent. A great table bore a painted map of Westeros. She set a dagger on King's Landing. We will not sail straight for the capital, she said. Robert will brace the Blackwater with every ship he can muster. Instead, we land at Crackclaw Point, march through the Kingswood. Ned Stark will counsel caution. Robert will ignore him. Her finger traced the Stormlands. Renly lacks the stomach for siege. He will plead with Robert to parley. Robert will refuse. While they argue, we will shatter their fleet from the rear with fire ships acquired in Lys. Then, she flipped the dagger, point driving into the heart of the map. The lion roars. Silence answered, taut as bowstring. The men saw more than strategy on that linen. They saw destiny, and they wanted to be part of its roar. Under a thin crescent moon, Cersei walked alone among her tents, listening to the snore of mercenaries. The muted clink of armor hung to rest. Across the camp, a lone singer strummed a sad chord, a tune of rivers and parting lovers. She paused beside a barrel of water stilling in moonlight. Her reflection wavered. No crown, no court. Only a woman with eyes that had forgotten softness. She touched the surface, ripples erasing the image. In the water's dark belly, she glimpsed shadow forms, Jaime in chains, Joffrey pale upon a bier, Tom clutching a kitten, Myrcella smiling with Dornish sunlight in her hair. Love twisted like a blade. She let the pain wash through, then set it aside. Love was a luxury, and luxuries were for later. For now, there was only steel and sea, and the slow gathering thunder of war. When winter's first gust rattled the shutters of Illyrio's manse, Cersei stood before her host, 800 now, infantry thick-ranked behind mounted knights, elephants swaying like walking citadels. Banners snapped. Crimson black lions, silver gauntlets of exiled Westerosi houses, the gold sunburst of Pentashi sail sails. Cersei mounted a dappled gray destrier. The courtyard churned with torch smoke and excitement. She raised her sword, lion-hilted steel wrought by Cohoric smiths, and its keen edge flashed blood-red in the firelight. "We sail at dawn," she called, voice ringing against stone. "Not as beggars, not as wanderers, but as storm-forged lions. Remember what was taken, crown, kin, honor. Remember what we claim, all of it and more." Now, a roar erupted. Lions, elephants, men, all melding into one primeval growl that shook the night birds from the ramparts. And as the sound rolled over Pentos, carrying fear into every shuttered house, Cersei Lannister smiled. for the world had finally begun to tremble, the way she always knew it would. Anjanjan. Dawn did not break so much as peel open, layer by layer, until black became bruised purple, and purple softened to the hushed rose of first light. The harbor of Pentos lay hushed beneath that uncertain glow, spindles of mist wavering between ships at anchor like ghosts reluctant to leave their posts. Cersei Lannister sat a horse upon the ramp that sloped from Illyria's garden gate to the quay, her destrier stamping against marble that had drunk the blood of peacocks sacrificed the previous night for luck. She neither glanced at the plumes of incense still curling from braziers along the path, nor acknowledged the bare-chested priests who intoned prayers in a tongue older than Valyrian. Luck was for gamblers. Cersei sailed with certainty. The Whisper rode near the pier, sails furled and stained from months of salt and storm. Beside it swung 4 Lysine cogs outfitted as fireships, barrels packed with pitch, lamp oil, and the rough concoction Cohoric alchemists insisted would float even upon water to blaze green and furious. Further east lay the Summer Vine, an unassuming grain carrier that now served as stable for 5 armored war elephants. Each beast wore a cage howdah trimmed in bronze. The plates of its headgear lacquered a deep garnet that shimmered like a ruby tide under sunrise. Cersei guided the gray destrier forward. Men snapped to attention as she passed. Sail sails in soot-black leather, Braavosi crossbowmen sporting feathers at their wrists, Westerosi knights who bore no sigils yet whose posture proclaimed their birth. She drank in their silence. They loved her already, though most would not name that slow-burning heat love. They would discover its nature only when it seared them on the banks of the black water. At the water's lip stood Illyrio Mopatis in robes the color of a bruised apricot, rings winking sapphire and citrine. He bowed, cheeks shaking with the effort. "Your Grace, all is prepared. I bid you safe voyage and swift conquest." Cersei dismounted, passing the reins to Ara. No longer maid but squire in crisp jerkins dyed lion red. "You have my gratitude, Magister," she said, and meant the word precisely as far as it stretched. Gratitude, like copper coin, was currency she could afford to spend. Loyalty she hoarded. She stepped onto the gangplank, boots clicking, cloak billowing in the hush before wind. The moment her foot touched the Whisper's deck, the harbor erupted in a cheer that rolled from pier to city hilltop. It roared through the tiled courtyards of Illyrio's manse, swept over the low-roofed shop rows, rattled shutters, and set dogs howling in their yards. Cersei closed her eyes and felt the vibration nestle in her bones. This was the pulse of empire in its first heartbeat. The fleet uncoiled from Pentos like a chain from a fallen gauntlet and made for open sea. Morning wind rippled the new standard at Cersei's mast, lying rampant across a divided field. Crimson for the rock, black for the blood yet to be spilled. Sailors spat to ward off envy spirits. Archers blessed bowstrings with charms carved of weirwood drift. Cersei watched each ritual and weighed its value. Fear, after all, was a tool. She would let every man keep his favorite blade so long as the grip fit her hand. On the second day, swells rose, heaving the fleet northward. The Whisper's prow split crests to foam, decks pitching with gut-tugging insistence. Most of the men weathered the toss. Some, green in the gills, hung over rails, while gulls circled overhead like debt collectors. Cersei stood bareheaded on the quarterdeck, fingers laced behind her spine. Captain Rhaegar approached, beard glittering with brine. "My lady," he said, voice strained from shouting orders. "The wind veers westerly. We will sight the Dragonstone beacon by dusk tomorrow." "Hold this course," Cersei replied. "Dragonstone is Targaryen stone. Its fires never burn for lions. We make south of it, hugging the coast where the watch is lax." Rhaegar hesitated just long enough for insolence to sprout, then nodded. Aye. Once he retreated to bark commands, Sir Bonifer Hasty stepped forward. The former Lord Commander of the Holy Hundred wore plain mail, no ornament, yet an aura of penitence clung like frost to his brow. Your Grace, he said, our ravens will outfly even a fair wind. I beg leave to loose birds towards sympathetic ears in the Stormlands. Word of your return, they open gates before steel need batter them. Cersei studied the man's earnest gaze. Westeros had scourged Boniface's conscience clean. She trusted guilt nearly as much as greed. Send 3 birds, 1 to House Estermont, pledging safe harbor should they declare. 1 to Tarth, reminding them of the debt they owed Tywin Lannister for the ransom of Lord Selwyn, and 1 to Storm's End itself, unsigned with but 2 words. She smiled. Lion wakes. Let Renly chew on that while he picks his teeth with persimmons. Bonifer bowed and turned away, shoulders lighter. Cersei watched him instruct a lysine page in the care of ravens, then let her gaze drift to the north horizon. Somewhere beyond sight lines, squadrons of gulls wheeled above Dragonstow's basalt crown. On its stony beaches, her brother Tyrion had once been taken prisoner. She felt neither hatred nor affection at the memory, only resolved that her steps must never falter as his had. On the 4th night, storm clouds came massing like armored behemoths. Lightning forked, white and blinding, across lattices of slate sky. Thunder rolled aft to prow, shaking timbers so the whole fleet seemed a single, trembling beast. The Whisper's masts groaned under reefed canvas. Cersei, refusing cabin shelter, clung to the stern castle rail, cloak whipping her calves. She tasted copper at the back of her throat. Exhilaration or prayer, the line blurred. For a moment, she imagined the gods themselves hammering at the world's anvil, forging a throne from skyfire. The storm broke before dawn, leaving decks slick and spirits raw. Sailors grumbled of ill omens. Crossbowmen muttered that storms, this late in autumn, spoke of long night whispers. Cersei strode among them, boots splashing, hair unbound in dripping coils. You fear too loudly, she said, voice cutting through groans. Fear softly, and it may forget to bite. Men blinked, some chuckled nervously, but the murmurs died. She descended to the holds to inspect her cargo. In one low-ceilinged bay, the war elephants rocked uneasily with the ship's cant, trunks rattling chains. Their handler, a narrow man from Korth named Shiko, bowed low. They hunger for the land, my lady. Sea rides itch their feet. Feed them sparingly, Cersei ordered. They must disembark, lean, ready for distance. She moved on to the armory where barrels of composite arrows nestled beside pikes, capped in steel shaped like lion claws. Crates of red-eyed wine from Mar, of salt pork, of Pentoshi oranges, studded with clove, filled alcoves. She ran a hand along one crate's lid. Wood flaked beneath her nail. Too thin. She made note to speak with quartermasters about sturdier casks for anything precious. Another hold had been converted into infirmary. Cots, bandages, jars of yunkish sap to dull pain. At its center sat Maester Wyman, once of Old Town, dismissed for alchemical curiosities frowned upon by Hightower purists. He looked up, spectacles fogged. Your Grace, seasickness claims fewer each day. Fever none yet. See that it stays so, she said, and left him scribbling metrics on parchment. Returning topside, she found Captain Rogar conferring with Sir Osmond Kettleblack. A partnership that smelled of brine and back-alley knives. Osmond, scarred and leaner than memory served, grinned at her approach. Your Grace, he drawled. King's Landing sits fat as a suckling pig. I wager 100 gold we breach its gates before the moon turns. Cersei, let the grin answer itself. Make ready, Sir Osmond. Before we breach gates, we breach hearts. Landfall came under a pewter sky. Crackclaw Point lay desolate, pines leaning inland as though wind had long ago pressed them into submission, beach pebbles gray and wet, surf snarling over hidden shoal. The Whisper nosed into a narrow cove like a cat, returning home with sinew between its teeth. Anchors dropped, longboats splashed, men spilled onto sand with muffled cheers. Cersei was among the first ashore. She inhaled air that carried peat and damp leaf-wrought Westerosi air. It sank into her lungs with the weight of ashes settling on old hearthstones. Her gauntleted hands dug a fistful of sand. She let grains slip through fingers as though measuring time wasted in exile, then wiped the coarse residue on her cloak and faced her captains. "Strike camp in the pine brake," she commanded. "No fires high. We march at sundown." Ser Ilyn Payne, mute and beetle-eyed, bowed stiffly, then moved to relay signals. 50 sellswords dragged tarpaulins from boats, archers camouflaged tent poles with moss, quartermasters uncrated salted meats and fresh water bladders. The war elephants disembarked via sloped planks reinforced with iron ribs. Each beast stepped onto beach stone, kneeling to steady itself before rising like a tower summoned from the earth. Their rumble of relief echoed against cliffs. Cersei climbed a rise overlooking the cove. The Kingswood stretched before her in shades of russet and smoke green, its edge broken where the black water rush wound silver as a throne deck. Beyond, she could almost taste the plums of King's Landing markets, the reek of tannery pits mingling with roasting boar, the clangor of bells that tolled 9 stars for the 7. She closed her eyes and saw the city along memory's map. Mud Gate, Red Keep's scarlet towers, Sept of Baelor's shattered bones, still black beneath scaffolds. Fire had given her vengeance once. This time, winter's breath might suffice. Ser Bonifer approached, helm tucked beneath arm. Scouts report 2 fishing villages within a league. Small folk only. "No," Cersei said. "We enter at dusk, buy provisions at thrice their worth, leave them whispering of golden generosity. Let word ride ahead that the lion's paw is velvet to those who do not bare their teeth." Bonifer nodded. Such mercy cost coin, but coin she possessed. Better peasants greet her columns with reverence than spades. Throughout afternoon, the camp settled. Cersei summoned Ara to brush her destrier's coat and oil buckles along harness. Detail mattered. She penned 3 letters, one to Lord Tarly in the Reach. Astute, ruthless, ever weighing scales, reminding him that debts to Tywin should weigh heavier than Tyrell alliances now overshadowed by a maid queen in Highgarden. One to Balon Swan, still stationed at Storm's End, offering return of a confiscated estate if he turned his garrison's falcons against Ren. That last she sealed, but did not send. Paper could not convey the knife-like absence of twin heartbeats parted. The column moved near sundown, dissolving into forest gloom. Pine needles muffled hooves, and elephant steps alike. Torches were sheathed. Ivory-tipped spears of Neath archers pointed skyward in silent prayer to butterfly gods. Cersei rode at midpoint, flanked by Ser Osmund and Ser Ilyn. She listened to the forest speak. Owls piping, distant boars crunching mast, the hush of wind through needled boughs. Each sound felt intimate after months of hull creaks and water's throat. They reached the first village past midnight, a crescent of wattle huts hugging a brook. Oil lamps sputtered behind shutterboards. Cersei dismounted, cloak brushing earth. She ordered 10 men ahead with coin purses, instructing them to waken headmen gently. Wordless wonder spread among villagers roused from sleep to receive bright Pentashi silver for barley, smoked eel, and goat cheese. One toothless matron, bewildered, pressed a sprig of juniper into Ara's hand for the fair lady. Ara smiled shyly. Cersei made mental note of that softness and resolved to harden it later. By sunrise, they slipped away, leaving only footprints and legends. 2 more hamlets received similar treatment along their woodland route. In each, Cersei's generosity grew whispers. The Lion Queen returned with gold enough to drown winter. 3 days brought them to the northern verge of the Kingswood, where old roads forked towards Storm's End in one direction and King's Landing in the other. Here Cersei ordered the elephants corralled in a hollow swaddled by hawthorn, set pickets to guard them, and advanced with foot and horse alone. Her host counted just over 700 now. Stragglers lost to fever or broken limbs lay buried beneath cairns of riverstone. They marched beneath a half-moon. Road dust coated boots as thin frost. Dawn of the 4th day, they crested a hillock to sight the outer watchfires of Robert Baratheon's royal hunting lodge, an outpost favored for boar runs. Smoke plumed from chimneys. Banners drooped. Crowned stag on goal. Sir Osmund proposed night assault. Few men, thick with ale, he said, licking lips. We seize the king by sunrise. Cersei shook her head. Robert is not there. This season he hunts grander game, tourneys of wine. Laughter rustled through nearby men. She unrolled a quick map on her pommel. We stage false trails here and here. She pointed. Scout will ride north to carry tale of bandits. The king will dispatch horsemen under Sir Lancel or another fawning cousin. We isolate and shatter that force, sending survivors fleeing to spread dread. The captains murmured assent. Ser Bonifa advised caution. Too many prisoners hampered speed. Cersei agreed. Let them flee, crippled but breathing. Fear gallops fast. That night a small company of crossbowmen, wearing stolen antler sigils, burned a stretch of grain field visible from the lodge. They nailed a severed boar's head to a tree with a crimson-painted lion rune upon its skull. By dawn, 20 stag-barded riders thundered from the gate in pursuit. Cersei's ambush sprang 2 leagues downriver. Archers loosed from elevated ledges. Cavalry crashed from flanks. And within 7 minutes the stag riders lay broken. 3 dead, 11 wounded, 6 scattering bareback. Cersei personally slew the captain, a tall Stormlander boy scarcely older than Tommen. His last words bubbled through blood. King's justice will find you. She wiped sword on his cloak. Let it ride swiftly then, she murmured. She left the corpses where they fell, arranged in a lion's head pattern visible from the sky. The Blackwater rush curved westward, and Cersei's scouts reported royal barges moving upstream, supply shipments of winter grain, escorted by a single river galley. Cersei ordered capture. At twilight, her men unleashed tar-drenched nets from overhanging willow limbs. The galley's oars tangled, mercenaries swarmed decks. Sailors surrendered near silent. 24 casks of grain became hers, along with bolts of Kingsguard marked cloth, likely bound for Whitesword Tower. Cersei commanded the cloth cut into bandages. Let the knights who preach virtue mend the wounds we cut, she said. With each success, her host swelled. Small folk farmers displaced by summer raids joined, eager to wear lion badges rather than starve behind unyielding toll gates. A disfavored Stormlander knight named Ser Courtenay Fell rode in with 15 men, claiming Robert had confiscated his lands for debts owed to Stannis. Cersei welcomed him, bidding Master Wyman treat the lash welt striping his back. She knew desperation's face. Allies forged of spite held strong. Word carried far swifter than her march. By the time her vanguard neared the village of Bronzegate on the main Roserad, she learned through frightened peddlers that Renly Baratheon proceeded from Storm's End with a host of 800, twice her number, marching hard. Ned Stark, still hand, pleaded diplomacy. But Robert, half paralyzed by fear of Tywin reprisals if Cersei fell, sanctioned Renly's pursuit with caution. Take the lioness alive, avoid burning fields lest winter find the realm empty. Cersei smiled at the loophole. Alive could mean anything short of death. She ordered immediate detour west of the Roserad into marshy flats, where Renly's heavy horse would bog. Ser Bonifier's disciples felled trees across narrow causeways, Now the archers coated reeds with poison sap that blistered stallions' mouths when they bit weeds. She scattered fireships south along the Blackwater, captained by cell sails disguised as smugglers, ready to ignite at her signal. Night after night, horns sounded in Renly's camp, a futile attempt to fix her location. Cersei's men moved by torchless sprints, bedding in dry copses before dawn's hush. Hunger nipped, but each grain cask taken from barges lengthened endurance. Her war elephants, left behind under Shiko's watch, trampled bracken paths to simulate main force movement northward, muddy prints larger than dragon skulls. Renly took that bait, losing 2 precious days in pursuit of ghosts. On the 17th day since landfall, Cersei reached the outskirts of Hayford, castle lords sworn to Targaryens long ago, now bound to Baratheons by gift of coin. She sent Sir Ilyn with a dozen knights under truce banner. They offered the Lady Hayford, a widow of 40 summers, a chest of green emerald sunset gems, Illyrio's parting gift, in exchange for 1 knight's quarter. She accepted, dazzled. After dark, Lady Hayford dined with Cersei in their solar candlelight, painting gold across oak panels. They spoke of Robert's neglect, of peasant levies biting away stores, of stormlords who scorned old blood. Cersei listened, nodding, before she produced a parchment deed naming Lady Hayford ward to Marcella upon the throne's restoration, with rights to appoint her castellan. Tears welled in the widow's eyes. She bent knee and pledged her garrison of 60. Hayford's granaries opened. Cersei's men ate warm bread and carrot soup until belts loosened. In that single stroke, her host regained strength and gained stone refuge. Renly's outriders appeared at dawn 2 days later, banners snapping above muddy armor. They demanded parley. Cersei watched from the battlement while Sir Osmond strode forth. She had chosen him knowing his oily grin unsettled men even before words. Renly's envoys demanded surrender. Osmond recited prepared lines. The Queen of 7 Bells greets Lord Renly and bids him return south, lest winter's bite gnaw his pretty gold beard clean off. It made little sense, but sense mattered less than scorn. Envoys rode off sputtering fury. That night, thunderheads rolled inland. Renly, impatient, ordered immediate siege. His men erected tents within bowshot, raising wooden mantlets to guard campfires. Cersei summoned her captains to Hayford's hall. A rough map lay across the main table, weighted by pairs of dice, 1 gold, 1 jade. She placed the jade pair inside Hayford's walls. Renly believes me cornered, she said, voice low. Hell hurl folly at these walls. We will let folly bounce. She tapped the golden dice outside. At first light we feigned sorties. Archers along battlements, elephant horns from the south wood, though the beasts are far from here. Renly will tighten ranks. Then we burn his heart. Nice. She pointed west of the camp, where a gentle slope ended in rushes, edging a small pond. Our fire ships sail upriver tonight. When I give signal, they ram moorings below that bank. Flames will leap. His supply carts, pitched nearby for easy load, will cook. Panic drives men better than spears. Sir Bonifa's brow furrowed. What of the small folk camp following his host? Women, children, farriers. They were clever enough to choose a stag banner, Cersei said. Let them learn a lion's roar is not song. Near midnight, the sea lily, smallest of her disguised cogs, slipped toward the bank. Now the archers on deck steadying jars of wildfire. Cersei climbed Hayford's tower rooftop and watched, wind clawing hair from her braid. She raised a lantern thrice. From the dark, a single moth wing of green flame fluttered, the agreed signal that all was set. At dawn's first blush horns blared. Hayford Gate swung open. 24 riders stormed forth, raising dust while archers atop walls, loose shafts that hissed overhead more for spectacle than harm. Renly's vanguard advanced, shouting encouragement, drums rattling. Their lines formed shield tortoise, edging toward moat. Then the river screamed. Green fire erupted as if the water itself birthed dragons. Flames climbed wagon wheels, touched canvas, kissed oiled tarps. Barrels exploded, spewing char and grain to mix in crackling torrents. Horses shrieked, eyes rolling white. Men dropped shields to throw sand that melted into glassy lumps. Thick, black smoke spiraled, carried by sudden wind straight across Renly's central ranks. What discipline he had drilled drowned beneath chaos. Screams pitched higher than horns. Armored men crashed into each other seeking escape routes, now blocked by their own siege ladders. From Hayford's walls, Cersei watched with a serenity bordering on ecstasy. Battle, she knew, was not merely kill or be killed. It was story, and she had authored this chapter meticulously. Sir Bonifer ordered crossbow bolts to harry edges of the conflagration, driving enemy soldiers deeper into the burning swathe. Sir Courtenay Fell led a sortie to capture abandoned siege towers, then torch them for good measure. All morning Renly's host clawed at ruin. By noon, flags of truce fluttered. Cersei conferred briefly with her captains, then granted audience to Renly's surviving marshal, Sir Parman Crane. He arrived soot-black and limping, kneeling in the scorched meadow before Hayford's gate. He presented Renly's signet ring, proof that the younger Baratheon had fled southward with a skeleton guard. Crane begged leave to gather wounded. Cersei allowed it, on the condition that every stag sworn henceforth carry word. The lioness hunts, and the stag runs. Hayford's walls echoed with cheers as the enemy limped away. Losses among Cersei's men counted 21 dead, 32 wounded. Grain stores captured remained largely intact, protected behind stone granaries. Maester Ryman treated lung burns with a poultice of honey and ground pearl. Elephant horns thrummed victory from the south wood, though the beasts themselves still trudged leagues away. Cersei paced the ramparts that dusk, surveying where ash curled upon charred beams. Fire left terrain like coal-etched scroll. She felt winter's breath slip through cracks in her gorget, and for a heartbeat cold pressed memory of childhood nights at Casterly Rock, when wind howled through sea-carved tunnels, and she and Jaime giggled beneath quilts, making promises only twins could share. She stiffened, exhaling the ghost. Inside Lady Hayford Solar she convened council. Captain Rogar detailed fleet status. 3 remaining fireships ready at anchor near Sal's Horn, the Whisper free to run upriver with supply. Sarah Osmond proposed pursuit of Renly. Cersei shook her head. The stag will bleed into his brother's arms. Let them patch each other while I draw the wolf. None. Zeus. She unrolled a fresh map, this one of Riverland. Ned Stark guards the king as hand, but his heart never left the north. He respects only 2 things, duty and honor. We will present him a choice that tears those limbs apart. Her fingertips settled on Harrenhal's charred concentric rings. Gregor Clegane holds garrison there. A monster wearing Lannister gold. He rapes. He burns. We whisper across Riverlands that the Lion Queen denounces his crimes, that she comes to cast him down. When Ned hears, honor compels him to watch. Duty will drag Robert behind him. Meanwhile, our fleet glides up the rush, manned by loyal estuary fishermen bribed in coin and promises. We seize the Mudgate from within while the king and hand chase shadows at Harrenhal. Then, she snapped gloved fingers. The Red Keep hears a lion's lullaby. Sir Ian's lipless mouth twisted in grim approval. Bonifer voiced concern over timing. Winter storms close seas, supply lines thin. Cersei countered with strategy. Their new grain stores afforded 12 weeks. Elephants could haul siege timber from Kingswood. Random acts of mercy along their march would turn small folk to her banner, swelling numbers and forage supply. The council dispersed, each mind afire. Cersei remained, pouring a measure of chilled wine into a silver goblet. The room smelled of burning pine and lavender wax. She thought of Tywin at a similar map table. Decades passed, teaching her the difference between boldness and impatience. Boldness wins cities. Impatience loses them. She lifted goblet, letting garnet liquid catch candles tremor. "Bold, father," she whispered. "Watch me be bold." High above Hayford, ravens beat wings into night. One carried parchment inked in Cersei's own small hand, addressed to Lord Walder Frey at the crossing. It offered, in elaborate courtesy, restoration of unpaid dowries, plus forgiveness of his eldest son's debts, should he seal the twins against northern forces, once the lion banners crossed the Trident. Another raven bore message to Lysa Arryn, a promise of revealing truths behind Jon Arryn's death, truths that might exonerate her, and a silent vow to keep young Robin safe if she sent her fabled Knights of the Vale to harry Ned Stark's rear. Lies or truths, gifts or threats, it mattered not. Words were daggers. She would fling whole quivers. While ravens vanished into cloud, Cersei descended to courtyard where troops celebrated with mulled ale. She moved among them, accepting clumsy salutes, offering brief words of praise. An archer with singed braids thrust a wooden token at her. A lion carved, roughly but earnest. Cersei closed the woman's fingers back around the token. "Keep it," she said. "A lion belongs outside cages." The woman's eyes shone wet. Cersei let warmth linger a heartbeat, then turned away. Leadership was theater, and she had donned every mask. In the quiet beyond the stables, she found Ara seated on a bale of hay, polishing the gold filigree that edged Cersei's riding gauntlets. The girl looked up, freckles dusted with straw. "Your Grace," she stammered, rising. "Sit," Cersei said, taking place beside her. Torches crackled, throwing fractured amber across barrels. "How old are you?" 16, my lady. Too young to know fear." Ara's smile faltered. "Sometimes I wake shaking from dreams of waves swallowing the ship." "Fear keeps the blade keen," Cersei, voice softer than usual. "But tempered steel must cool slow, lest it become brittle. Breathe, child, when fear comes. Count heartbeats. Name each beat for what you love." She paused. "When you reach the end of your loves, you'll find fear has fled." Ara breathed, nodding. Cersei's gaze wandered to the girl's hair, the shade of sunlit wheat, not unlike Myrcella's. Heat pricked behind Cersei's eyes. She crushed it mercilessly. She rose. "I will need my armor mended by dawn. See to it." "Yes, my lady." Cersei strode away, hearing Ara whisper names into the dark. Weeks unspooled, like frayed ribbon. Cersei's host moved north along the river's edge, skirting larger towns to avoid pitched battle until her design ripened. Ravens returned with replies. Lord Walder's letter full of florid praise and ambiguous promises. Lysa Arryn sealed with wax cracked from haste. She begged details. Cersei penned careful lines, hinting that the poisoner still roamed court, disguised as ally. She suggested that a certain eastern eunuch might hold answers in exchange for safe harbor. She sealed it with a lion's paw and a smear of perfume. A scent varies once praised. Let paranoia worm the Ares nests. From the west, word came that Tywin Lannister had summoned bannermen yet lingered in Casterly Rock, uncertain whether to march. Cersei suspected the old lion sought to measure which of his cubs roared loudest. Daughter or crown? She ensured spies carried tidings of Renly's defeat, of villages praising Lion's justice. Let Tywin weigh outcomes. Soon he would see only golden opportunity. Scouts brought more tidings. Ned Stark rode from King's Landing with 300 Northmen and 500 crowns worn to quell Gregor Clegane's banditry near Harrenhal. Robert remained behind, nursing gout and paranoia, his court divided between those who deplored Cersei's exile and those who secretly cheered her audacity. Joffrey had taken to sulking in Maegor's Holdfast, apparently refusing council sessions. Tommen asked nightly why Mother had not returned. Myrcella begged her septa to teach her Essos dialect so she might one day find Cersei across the sea. These shards of news cut. Cersei welcomed the bleeding. It kept her anger hot. At dusk outside Harroway, she convened a field court. Sellsword leaders lined before her as she sat on a carved oaken chair, seized from Hayford, raised atop a hastily built dais. Behind, the banner of the divided lion snapped. She addressed Pay. "You have earned double your contract for bravery," she said, voice carrying across campfires. "Yet silver alone cannot quench thirst for renown. I offer each man a choice. Take coin and part ways at first snow, or pledge to me till crown sits upon my head. Those who swear the second oath receive lands proportional to valor. Choose." Rustling moved through ranks. Some murmurs, some cheers. Men weighed purses versus promises. By hour's end, 3/4 stepped forward to kneel, voices echoing oath of lion's blood. Cersei's host numbered near 1,000 now, swollen with Stormlander defectors, appalled by Renly's flight. Riverland peasants seeking shield, and wandering hedge knights smelling glory. She rose, cloak rustling. "The realm will learn the cost of spurning its queen," she said, "and we will teach them coin is paltry next to fear forged in fire." At that, Sirs Osmond and Ilyn raised swords, crossing above her head in salute. The host thundered approval. Sparks leapt from nearby fire pits like captive stars. Ned Stark's column clashed with Gregor Clegane at a burned mill outside Harrenhal's towering ruins. Reports reached Cersei via hawk within 2 days. Clegane's men routed, Gregor vanished. Stark's victory tainted by villagers hailing the Lion Queen for naming Clegane traitor. Stark, sources claimed, looked upon the cheering small folk with confusion akin to pain. Cersei permitted herself one sharp laugh, brittle and bright. She turned to her council. "Now we strike iron while snow is still dust." The plan unfurled so. Sir Bonifaire, with 200, marched west to feign attempt on River Run, forcing Hoster Tully to call banners home and thus weak Ned's supply chain southward. Sir Courtenay fell, and a cadre of Nathi archers rode east, liberating grain barges supposedly confiscated by crown levies, then distributing loaf and salt as gifts from the Lion Queen who remembers hungry bellies. Meanwhile, Cersei led the main force southward along the King's Road, mirroring Ned's northward, but staying 1 day's march east, hidden by tangled forest until she chose moment to reveal. 3 nights later, near Wycombe, she struck. An advance crown column of 200, mostly young squires and green knights under Sir Harlan Thorne, camped near the road's bend. Cersei's scouts reported lax watches, drunken boasting. She ordered silent encirclement. At moon zenith, the arrows whistled. Elephants crashed from trees, uprooting illusions of safety. Footmen roared. The skirmish ended in less than a quarter hour. Survivors, roughly 90, were bound and marched before Cersei at her command tent, lit by lamp oil. She greeted them, seated behind a narrow trestle, lion mask of beaten gold obscuring upper face. "Tell me," she said, voice muffled but unmistakable, "what price parents would pay to see sons return?" None answered. She gestured. Sellswords dragged 2 forward, forced them to knees. "You will carry ransom letters," she told them. "Stark's honor forbids abandonment. Robert's pride forbids concession. When they quarrel, recall that you still wear your own skins by my mercy." The prisoners nodded, trembling. Cersei dismissed them with sealed scrolls. As guards led them away, she turned to Sir Osmond. "Send ravens to Tywin. He'll relish how Crown begs for coin." Osmond smirked. Later that night, she removed lion mask, exhaling. Ara entered to unlace cuirass. "You looked magnificent," the girl whispered. "Magnificence is a weapon," Cersei replied, "honed upon fear's whetstone." Ara bit lip. "Will you truly return them, the prisoners, when it suits?" She caught Ara's gaze. "A promise can be a muzzle or a noose." Ara nodded solemnly. Morning fog lay thick as she swung astride her horse. Dozen riders scouted ahead, swords sheathed. Cersei rode among elephants now reunited, massive silhouettes in gray gloom. She could almost forget war in that hush, save for the cold knowledge that war never forgot her. They halted midday at the ruins of an old sept razed during Maegor's reign. Cracked statues of the Seven loomed, beheaded amid weeds. Here, Cersei parleyed with a band of broken men who wore sigils scraped from shields. Their leader, a one-eyed sellsword named Jacko Bones, claimed 200 raiders and a dozen stolen gold cloaks. He offered to harry Ned's guard for coin. Cersei countered, "Serve without payment for 30 days, claim any spoils, and earn royal pardon plus rights to settle Crownland's acreage when victory came." Bones agreed, spitting in his palm. They shook. Thus her shadow host swelled further. Ned Stark, meanwhile, found river crossings barred, bridges burned by unknown raiders as he approached Harrenhal's causeways. Supply carts dwindled, foragers turned away by small folk loyal now to the mysterious benefactors feeding them. Reports reached Stark that Robert, panicked by Renly's defeat and growing unrest in the capital, where sparrows chanted for the Queen's return, had recalled him to King's Landing with haste. Between hunger and royal summons, Stark's column forced grueling marches, discipline fraying. Cersei waited at a village called Bywater Bridge, hidden in alder swamps. Her scouts tallied Stark's numbers: 600 Northmen, 300 crowns worn, half on exhausted mounts. She allowed them to pass, unmolested, trailing at distance. Once Stark crossed the Blackwater Ford, she sent Bones raiders to collapse the pontoon behind him, severing retreat. Now the wolf drove before the lioness, and King's Landing stood ahead. News from the city trickled via smugglers. Joffrey had taken the throne in Robert's absence, enthroned by Grand Maester Pycelle, citing regency necessity. Crowds beloved his golden hair, yet jeered at limits on bread distribution. Gold cloaks, demoralized by rumors of Renly's rout, argued over loyalty. Many still owed coin to the treasury Tywin once filled. Varys, some whispered, vanished from small council chambers days prior, leaving only the faint scent of lilac where spiders once spun. Cersei set camp 2 leagues from the city walls, in ruins of an ancient Valyrian staging ground. Stone circles scrawled with glyphs no maester decrypted. Maester Wyman insisted the site held residual magics. He cautioned against sleeping within the largest circle, where moss glowed faint at dusk. Cersei, intrigued, spent one night inside, sword across knees, waiting for vision or specter. She dreamt of a throne of twisting white roots, not swords, from which a woman's shadow reached to cradle her chin. She woke chilled yet calm. She trusted no prophecy, but she collected every edge. At council, she declared final movements. Captain Rogar to sail the Whisper upriver under false Free City stripes, bearing crates marked as Dornish oranges but filled with Anethi archers. Under cover of darkness, they would land inside the harbor near the city's crumbling black cells quay, where Bones' stolen gold cloaks would open sally ports. Simultaneously, Bonifer's knights, disguised as septons, would deliver wagons of alms to the gate of the gods, wagons packed with crossbowmen behind false wallboards. Cersei herself would ride at the head of her elephant corps to the city's dragon gate, trumpeting challenge, eyes fixed on spectacle, while daggers slipped between ribs unseen. The plan hinged on timing, on surprise, on the city's current disarray, and on Ned Stark's honor, which she would burst like a wineskin. She penned one final letter, addressed to Lord Eddard Stark, Warden of the North, delivered by the 2 ransomed prisoners now free. The letter contained but one sentence: "While you safeguard a usurper's crown, I cradle your king's bastard at my breast." It was lie and lure. The mention of bastards would twist his memories of Jon Arryn and suspicions of Robert C. Honor would drag him to Red Keep's cryptic corridors, hunting truth while gates roared open elsewhere. She sealed letter in black wax. Prisoners wrote. Night preceding assault dawned starlit. Campfires burned low. Cersei walked among elephants, stroking rough hides, murmuring in high Valyrian scraps she'd learned in girlhood. Shiko instructed her in the beast's cues. A tug on left harness rope turned. Double tap on forehead halted. She slept a bare hour, dreamless, then armed. Black leather brigandine sewn with gilded lion threads beneath a crimson surcoat. Sword nightshade at hip, dagger of dragonglass at thigh, an indulgence bought from Ashai for its uncanniness rather than use. Ira secured cape clasp, blinking tears. "Return crowned, my lady." "I will return shaping crowns," Cersei corrected. Before first pallor of pre-dawn, horns sounded thrice. The host moved. Cersei rode foremost upon the largest elephant, plate armor fitted to beast's skull, etched with snarling lion. Gray skin rippled under red gold chain draped across shoulders. The howdah throned her above men, standard streaming behind like comet tail. They advanced through Kingswood, dew-laden branches, rushing parade of spears below. City lights flickered ahead, a warren of lanterns and chimney glow behind walls age-cracked. The air smelled of soot, river rot, and early frost. Cersei raised fist. Column halted half-league from Dragon Gate. She pitched voice low for Bonifer. "Set deception wheels." He bowed, vanishing into gloom with his disguised wagons. Captain Rogara's fleet segment had already slipped upriver hours earlier. If tides favored, now the archers crouched behind fruit crates inside the harbor gate now. Cersei waited. Silence pressed like heavy velour. Within walls, bells tolled matins at the great sept's charred skeleton. Then distant clamor rose, shouts near the gate of the gods. Torches flared, silhouettes scurried along parapets. A thunderous creak signaled inner gate drawbridge lowering. Bonifer's ruse succeeded. Cersei thrust lion-headed horn to lips and blew. The brassy roar rolled across battlements. Elephants advanced, smashing saplings, tusks crowned in iron. Men marched behind in disciplined lines, banners surging. Infantry beat spears on shields to rhythm of heartbeats. Atop Dragon Gate ramparts gold cloaks appeared, some raising bows. Cersei slowed, standing in howdah. "I am Cersei of House Lannister," she projected, voice amplified by horn echo. "Trueborn queen of the Seven and regent of their hearts. Open these gates, and no absolution." Arrows whistled weakly, falling short. Voices atop wall argued. Some vanished. Cersei signaled elephants to halt within bowshot. But beyond pitchfire, she waited, breath misting. Within minutes, a single figure appeared at parapet, waving linen scrap. The portcullis rattled. Chains groaned. Dragon Gate yawned. A cheer cascaded through her ranks. Cersei spurred elephant forward, hooves shaking earth. She passed beneath archway, shadow swallowing her, emerging into King's Landing's muddy street beyond. Small folk peered from doorways, eyes wide. Inside walls, chaos already bloomed. At Gate of the Gods, Bonifer's hidden crossbowmen seized towers. At Mudgate, Nathi archers rained arrows from captured cranes. Bones raiders swarmed the fish market, shouting lion slogans and distributing stolen bread. Bells clanged alarm, but no command stilled confusion. Cersei directed her vanguard toward Maegor's holdfast. Thrones, she knew, were taken not one stone at a time, but in hearts of those who believed occupation complete. If she trod Red Keep Hall before dawn's full light, realm might bend by breakfast. As she rode, gold cloaks nearest threw down arms. Coin owed them glimmered in hopeful memory. Some bent knees as she passed. She acknowledged none. Mercy later, speed now. At the foot of Aegon's high hill, resistance sharpened. 4 columns of Crownlanders still loyal to Joffrey formed shield wall across Ramp Road. Cersei halted, raised right fist. Now the archers advanced, knocking poison-coated arrows with humming tension. Before volley loosed, a young officer stepped from enemy line, voice cracking. "Hold! We wish parley." Cersei eased Elephant forward alone, leaving archers war-ready. She studied officer, barefaced, no beard. Name: Sir Lambert Turnberry, oath sworn to Lord Baelish of Harrenhal. His shield bore mockingbird sigil. "Do you guard a mockingbird, Sir Lambert, or a boy king who sits on stool too tall?" He gulped. "We guard realm stability." Cersei smiled. "Stability is an illusion purchased by terror or love. I offer both." She gestured behind. Bread wagons and fish market. Elephants shuddering power. "Choose." Sir Lambert turned to confer with Line. Cersei waited, hand resting upon Nightshade's hilt. Clouds parted. Pale dawn light silvered her hair, catching blood-red threads in surcoat. When Lambert faced her again, his sword slid free. A salute rather than threat. He knelt. Shields lowered. Lines dissolved into confused but willing submission. Cersei rode past, uphill. At Red Keep's outer gate, she found gold cloaks assembled but commanderless. They opened gate without question, perhaps believing order came from some higher voice. Inside, courtyard throbbed with anxious clatter. Cersei dismounted, handing reins to Ara, who had galloped close behind. She strode across paving stones, dusty with years of sun. Grand Maester Pycelle waited on steps, beard disheveled. "Your Grace," he began. She backhanded him with mailed fists. The old man crumpled, beard flecked with red. "Take him," she told guards. "Cellars will cool his tongue." She climbed. Inside, keep corridors, tapestries wavered as servants scurried. She turned corners with certainty of one who memorized every stone. Maegor's stairs rose. At their crest, wooden doors led to council chamber. She pushed through. There stood Ned Stark. He wore a travel-stained cloak, hands badge, pinned askew. Eyes haunted, letter crumpled in fist, hers. Cross table sat Varys, powdered face pale but intact. Beside him, Pettier Baelish toyed with silver coin. Joffrey huddled near window, crown slipping over tousled curls, pale and furious. Sandor Clegane stood guard, hand on sword hilt. Ned's eyes lifted to Cersei. Time froze like water about to crystallize. For an instant, childhood familiarity flickered. Eddard the solemn boy at court. Cersei the bright-haired princess. Then, the moment shattered. "Your madness ends here," Ned said, voice ragged. Cersei advanced, fists opening in invitation. "Madness. I journeyed home bearing justice in both hands. You met justice on a mill road and let it escape. Tell me, Lord Stark, which of us is blind?" Joffrey found his voice shrill. "Guards, arrest this traitor." No guard moved. The corridor beyond thronged with her men. Sandor hesitated, gaze flicking between Cersei, Ned, and Joffrey. Slowly, he removed hand from sword. Cersei turned to Varys. "Spider, sing my victory." Varys bowed. It seems the wind has changed direction. Baelish chuckled softly. Chaos, as ever, is a ladder. Cersei regarded Ned. Lay down sword, my lord. Kneel, and your daughters remain untouched. Rise against me, and honor will be naught, but the ghost that watches them die. Ned's jaw clenched. He looked to Joffrey, to crown heavy on boy head, then to the letter in his fist, accusation of bastardy he had spent months half believing. He exhaled, sword clanged to floor. He knelt. In that hush, Cersei tasted triumph, as sharp as lemon on her tongue. She stepped forward, placed gloved hand atop Ned's bowed head. Your honor serves me now. Joffrey screamed protest, but his words ended as her gauntlet rose. She backhanded him, crown skittering across flagstones. Gasps erupted. Cersei spoke, voice ringing. I am Cersei, of House Lannister, first of my name, Queen of the Seven, protector of the realm, kneel or bleed. And one by one, Baelish with sly grin, Varys with sigh of capitulation, Sandor with silent shrug, knees bent. Even Joffrey, tears streaking, crawled to retrieve his crown and pressed forehead to stone. Cersei turned, strode to window overlooking Blackwater. Dawn had fully broken, painting river in crimson gold. Fire ships smoldered near Mud Gate, black smoke trailing like funeral silk. City bells tolled in peals she had never heard, half celebration, half dirge. She raised arms wide, cloak unfurling behind like wings. From courtyards below rose the roar of her host, a sound older than kingdoms, deeper than victory, the hungry echo of destiny recognizing its match. Cersei closed her eyes, let roar cradle her heart. In that firelit darkness, she saw a throne of swords shining once more. But beneath it, roots of white wood throbbed, and a woman's shadow beckoned. She opened eyes before vision trapped her, whispered a vow only silence heard. That throne, those roots, that shadow, she would master them all, for she was lion forged by exile, winter blooded by storm, crowned by her own hand. She was Cersei Lannister, and the game, at last, belonged to her. The roar beyond the Red Keep's walls did not ebb. It settled into a low, thrumming pulse, a heartbeat echoing through each courtyard, arch, and column of ashlar. Cersei allowed it to wash over her as she took the small council chamber for her own. The air smelled of dust, cold marble, and the metallic sting of anticipation. She walked to the high-backed chair at the table's head, the seat Robert had rarely warmed, the seat Tywin once occupied during the Mad King's darkest hours. She placed a gloved hand upon the dragon-carved armrest, felt old lacquer flake beneath her touch, and sat. The chamber shifted, as if the keep itself exhaled at last. Ned Stark remained kneeling, sword surrendered. His gray eyes rose, heavy with questions that honor would never shape into daggers. Cersei met the stare without blinking. Lord Stark, she said, voice smooth as winter-still water, will you swear fealty to the crown that now sits upon my brow? His jaw set. And what crown is that? You allow no vote of lords, no claim of right beyond conquest. Conquest is right, she answered. A truth Aegon knew, a truth Robert forgot. She gestured to the table's length, where Varys, Baelish, Pycelle, Pal, and Bruised, and the few counselors who had not fled, huddled like mice forced into open court. Your peers bend knee already. Must the North stand apart again, bleeding alone? Ned's gaze flicked toward Pycelle, who refused to meet it, and then to the window where the city's curtain walls flashed gold and dawning sun. Smoke from night fire still drifted. He closed his eyes once, briefly, resigned. The North will not suffer another Mad King. Cersei lifted a brow, then let her suffer a living queen. Slowly, he touched his fingertips to the floor, one heartbeat, two, before pushing upright. He remained silent, neither pledge nor curse, but she knew a man defeated when she saw one. She turned to Joffrey. He knelt awkwardly on bruised knees, crown clutched between small, trembling hands. Brown curls fell across his eyes. "Rise, my son." He obeyed, swallowing hard. Blood from her earlier blow dried on his cheek. "Mother," he whispered, "the throne." She took the crown from his grasp. It glittered faintly, a circlet hammered hurriedly by some Red Keep goldsmith the day Robert died. A crown meant for a boy, fragile compared to the swords around which the Iron Throne coiled. She set it on the table before her. "There is only one throne, Joffrey. Rule comes from more than a circlet's weight." She tilted her head. "Will you serve?" "Yes," he breathed, confusion and relief mingling. "Then fetch ink and parchment. I shall dictate edicts before the sun climbs above the sept spires." Joffrey rushed to comply, guarded by Sandor's looming shadow. Cersei faced the spider. Varys summoned the remaining masters of coin, ships, and whisperers. "The city must know order before midday bells." Varys bowed, voice silken. "At once, your grace." Baelish tapped silver coin against nail, eyes bright as a knife's edge. Chaos enjoyed its hour, but commerce must not freeze. Ships wait at anchor, wondering whom to bribe. "You will ensure graft flows where I point," Cersei said. "Red into streets by sunset, else merchants pay the price of hoarded grain." Baelish smiled narrowly. "As you command." Pycelle dabbed bloody lip with sleeve. "Brown finances, your grace." She silenced him with a look. "Tywin will send what is required. Draft letters under my seal demanding immediate release of the Lannister treasury. If the Rock hesitates, remind my father his grandchildren remain here. Sweeten the ink." The old maester nodded, quill trembling. Cersei rose. "We act swiftly, keep closes gates to maintain order, but markets remain open. Proclaim a feast for small folk 3 days hence. Song and meat, buy loyalty faster than threats." Baelish quirked a brow. "A costly celebration, with coffers lean." Cersei's smile flashed thin. "Cost is illusion. Borrow if you must. Debt, like fear, binds." She swept from chamber, guards falling into step. Her boots struck stone with a rhythm that echoed horns of conquest. Down spiraling stairs, across echoing corridors lined with tapestries charred by wildfire, she emerged into the throne room itself. The Iron Throne awaited, forged swords blackened by centuries of dust and sweat. Each blade still whispered of conquests past. She ascended, cloak trailing like licking flame. At the top she turned, sitting slowly, letting every watcher in the hall, a scattering of servants, a handful of guards, cross the blur between memory and revelation. Steel points prodded shoulders, reminding her of Visenya's counsel. The throne is not comfortable, nor should it be. She sat straight, gold hair tumbling across crimson surcoat, eyes sweeping pillars to doors as though measuring new skin on old bones. "Send criers," she told a captain. "Gawa. Proclaim audience at high noon. Those who seek royal favor may find doors open once." He bowed and strode away. Alone beneath vaulted ribs of stone, Cersei allowed herself a breath. Her fingers tightened on armrests where steel welded to steel hinted at ancient screams. She felt not fear but an overwhelming clarity. Years of playing queen, of sharing rule with men who saw crowns as toys, had led her to this blade-edged seat. Exile had burned away illusions, leaving tempered ambition. She whispered words only iron could hear. "I am the storm you forged." High noon approached, and with it the first wave of supplicants. Cersei cloaked herself in deliberate ritual. Lion brooch at throat, black gloves, no crown yet. Thrones were best claimed first indeed, crown after. Joffrey, wearing a smaller circlet of red gold, stood 2 steps below her, arms folded across chest in studied seriousness. Sandor Clegane loomed behind, one hand always at hilt. The great doors swung wide. Sun-drenched daylight painted the marble floor as banners fluttered overhead. Makeshift standards sewn overnight, divided lion rampant. First came small folk representatives, a baker, a dyer, a guttering old septon, ushered through by gold cloaks who had replaced their stag brooches with hastily hammered lion pins. They fell to knees. Cersei listened to grievances of grain shortage, of thieves looting warehouses under pretext of royal chaos. She answered each swiftly. Bakeries would receive half-price flour by dawn. Dyers a tax relief in return for uniforms. Dyed lion crimson. The Septon's orphanage to gain barrels of dried fish from seized Tyroshi merchants. She turned to Baelish, stationed to one side, to ensure promises found coin. He smiled thinly, tallying debts he would one day collect, unless she collected first. Next came knights, lesser sons of crownlands, houses smelling opportunity. They pledged swords. She granted them posts in her swelling city guard, promising property confiscated from traitors who fled. Her scribes recorded names, parchments sealed with wax hardened within minutes. But when the herald announced Sir Lancel Lannister, Robert's former cupbearer, murmurs rose. Lancel approached, armor polished bright despite sleepless nights. He bent knee. "Cousin, I come at King Robert's command to secure your safe removal." Cersei laughed, low and sharp. "The king no longer commands." She rose, descending 2 steps. "Stand, Lancel. Tell me, does Robert still hunt tourney cups at the bottom of a wineskin?" Lancel flushed. "His grace rides north to crush rebellion. Let him ride. He will find no stag banner left to shelter beneath." She circled Lancel slowly. "Will you serve?" His eyes flicked to Joffrey, to Sandor, back to her. "I will." She placed hand on his shoulder. "Then fetch the crown's warhorses, ready for pursuit of my father's favor. You ride at dawn for Casterly Rock, bearing my summons." Relief and fear mingled in Lancel's nod. He retreated, leaving tension echoing. A hush fell as herald called, "Sir Barristan Selmy." The old knight strode through parted ranks, hair white, armor plain but polished. He knelt. "Your grace." Cersei examined him. Here stood a man Robert had dismissed for age, the Kingsguard legend slighted by a realm that worshipped youth's folly. "You come to serve or chastise?" "To serve the realm," he said, neither meek nor defiant. "You hold it now." She gestured. "Rise, wear white again." A flicker of warmth stirred in his faded blue eyes. "I will serve. Yet I must ask amnesty for Sir Jaime." Cersei's breath hitched. She clipped it closed. "My brother will face my justice. Serve me well, and advocacy shall be weighed." He nodded, accepting bargain he could not yet parse. She waved him aside, and audience resumed. Hours bled, petitioners arriving, bending, leaving with new orders. Through it all, Ned Stark watched silently from side dais, manacled but unbound. Twice their eyes met. Twice she saw storm clouds behind his stoic calm. She wondered whether his silence was broken heart or calculating pause. At dusk, when torches hissed alight, her herald announced last petitioner. "Lord Tywin Lannister, Warden of the West." A hush sharper, then blades sliced the hall. Into torch glow strode the Lion of Casterly Rock, hair pale gold shot with silver, face carved of unforgiving will. His crimson cloak swept marble like a tide of blood. Behind, ranks of Lannister men-at-arms filed in, armor gleaming. Tywin halted before dais, gaze fixed on Cersei. Seconds stretched. Memory of childhood lessons, of overheard judgments, of nights he read her the art of war from dusty scrolls, stitched by Valyrian scribes. Each flickered in her mind, then still. She descended, stopping 3 steps above him. "Father." Tywin appraised her attire, her soldiers, the Iron Throne looming. Then he knelt, one knee bending with the elegance of a kingmaker. "Your Grace." The hall released collective breath. Cersei extended hand. Tywin pressed lips to leather glove. Rising, he spoke low enough that only she heard. "You have done what sons failed to do." She felt heat bloom, triumphant yet wary. Aloud, she said, "The West stands with the crown?" "Always." His gaze cut toward Ned. "Though some debts demand settlement." She inclined head. "In time, tonight we celebrate union of Lion's pride." Tywin bowed again. The chamber erupted in chants of "Long live the Queen." Cersei returned to throne. She signaled. Servants rolled casks of arbor gold into hall. Musicians struck strings. She sat while revel began, but her mind roved ahead. Tywin's arrival shifted the board. Gold to fill coffers, legions to hold riverlands, cunning to rival her own. Allies beyond Crownlands would weigh his knee. The game widened, stakes higher. She looked to northern corner, where Ned stood. Tywin followed her gaze, measuring prey. She signaled to guards. Ned be escorted to comfortable chambers, under watch but unharmed. Tywin's brow furrowed. She shook her head minutely. Patience. The wolf's pelt still served. Night deepened. Moonlight silvered high battlements. Cersei climbed Tower of the Hand's narrow stairs, alone save reflex of shadow. At parapet top, she found Varys, cloak fluttering, ringed by silver glow. He turned, expression inscrutable. "Many threads tangle tonight, your grace," he said. "Spare me riddles. What whispers now? Storms and teeters. Renly scatters. Reputation tarnished. Lords of the Reach study petals in wind. Yet one bloom grows familiar crimson. Queen Augury Tyrell." Cersei folded arms. Olenna's rose. She waters seeds. Granaries flow. Banners rise. Reach may decide a queen with proven harvests outshines. A queen forged in flame. Man. Cersei stared southward where stars blurred at horizon. Tyrell's fancy courtly games. They will bend if stems not snap. There's Stannis, Varys added softly. Robert's older brother, unforgiving of bastards, armed with devout zeal. He sails from Dragonstone with fleet. True-born claim, they say. Lord Alistair Florent raises black stag on green banners beside him. "Let Stannis come," Cersei said. "Dragonstone stones no defeat." Her mind ticked. Stannis brought ships, Dragonstone fleet, plus Crownlands. Remnants might outnumber her coastal patrol. She would need allies at sea. Perhaps Braavosi captains still owed coin. Perhaps Ironborn restless. She filed thought. "And the north?" Varys murmured. "Robb Stark." She laughed quietly. "A boy lord untested. He gathers fast. Dirulves run when pack threaten." She weighed. Tywin could march west to intercept, but his pride would relish breaking northern host on fields where Mad King once burned Rickard and Brandon. She would let him, so long as victory remained hers. "Watch Robb," she ordered. "Send ravens to ravens. Hint that north might stand independent if it spares southern blood. See how loyalties shake when offered half a victory." Varys bowed. "As you wish." She stepped to battlement, whined snatching cloak. River of rooftops below glimmered with lanterns. Black water shimmered beyond, dotted with charred hulks still smoking. She breathed salt and ash. "Tell me, Spider," she said, voice barely above breeze. "Does realm ever truly love its rulers?" "Love is a song few remember the words to," he answered. "Fear hums on every tongue." She nodded, satisfied. "Then we shall teach them harmony in both keys." Dawn's orange crest found her in her bedchamber, a solar once Elia of Dorn's, then Robert's mistress, now reclaimed. She sat before mirror as Ara brushed hair, knots tugging scalp. "Does it hurt?" Ara asked softly. "Hurt reminds," Cersei answered. Ara hesitated. "I heard maids gossip. Some fear the Reach will starve city if they close trade routes." Cersei met her reflection's green gaze. "Fear drowns weaker first. I will build a fleet to fetch grain from Bravos if need be, or take Highgarden's bonds by force." She reached back, touching Aerys' wrist. "Remember counting your loves?" The girl nodded. "Add this city to your tally. Fear fades when love list grows." Aerys smiled, emboldened. Cersei donned riding leathers lined with plush sable. She walked a balcony overlooking courtyard where Lannister guards drilled with crownlanders. Elephant horns trumpeted greeting. She raised hand. Horns ceased. Soldiers bowed. "Today," she called, voice ringing, "we prepare for specters. Stannis upon the sea, roses upon the wind, wolves in the north. Yet lions fear no specter. We roar, specters scatter." Cheers echoed stone. Tywin appeared at her shoulder. "Well spoken." She angled head. "You march west. Riverlands first. Harrenhal garrison is broken. Roads open. Robb Stark too near the neck to threaten yet. I will smash Tully resistance. Secure grain." She turned fully. "Leave Ser Adam Marbrand to shore up King's Road and stand ready to push north if Robb crosses Trident." He studied her, then nodded. "And the capital?" "Secure. You focus war, I focus throne. Remember, wars are won by gold and bread as much as swords." She smiled faintly. "I remember." Tywin descended staircase to courtyard, gold cloak billowing, his retinue forming up. She watched Father Mount Destrier give curt orders. Trumpets sounded departure. Gate groaned open. As columns wound out, sun-caught blades like scattered coins. Cersei whispered, "Go, father. Win me kingdoms I will wear like jewels. None unto ye." Small council reconvened midday. New chairs filled. Sir Barristan restored as Lord Commander. Baelish still coin. Varys whispers. Pycelle healing. Tywin absent. His seat empty but present. Cersei presided. Agenda. Funds. Baelish produced ledgers thrice inked. Debts circled like vultures. Cersei authorized Ysera of Tyrell wine stores anchored in Blackwater. Sailed the Pentos for quick liquidity. She imposed levy on Myrish silk merchants in exchange for exclusive contracts. Coin now, luxuries later. She ordered mint, reopened to strike golden lions, new currency to buy loyalty. Next, defense. Barristan recommended doubling watch atop city walls, forging scorpions to deter ships. Blacksmiths would work day and night, fed by crown. Pycelle grumbled shortage of pig iron. Cersei granted charters to Duskendale mines. Logistics. With Tywin's march, she required reliable river crossings. She tasked Varys to secure ferrymen, bribe or threaten, along Trident. She authorized building pontoon bridge under Lannister engineers to speed supplies. Lastly, message to realm. She drafted decree. Queen's pardon for any lord who bends knee within 30 days. Save those named traitor by trial, namely Stannis, Renly, and any who claim false blood. Decree promised reduced levies and tax forgiveness for first 5 houses in each region to swear. She stamped it with lion paw seal. Papers dispatched, council ended. Outside chamber a page waited, cheeks flushed. Your Grace, a singer from Dorne begs audience. She carries lute and scroll from Prince Doran. Cersei's brow rose. Send her tonight. Songs may oil hinges of diplomacy. As page scurried, Baelish lingered. A delicate dance begins, my queen. Dornatel nurses ancient wounds. She glanced sideways. Scorpions sting slow, but their venom kills all the same. I will dance. He bowed, sly, departed. That evening, feast lit the great hall. Tables groaned with boar, goat, honey-glazed quail. Small folk representatives sat alongside minor lords. An unheard-of mingling. Musicians played a new composition. Lions return, melody triumphant, horns and strings woven. Cersei sat at high table, goblet of Dornish red between fingers. She scanned hall. Joffrey perched to her right, subdued. Arya stood behind, next to Sandor. Ned Stark occupied seat left of Barristan. Courtesy extended to keep Wolf near Den. He ate little, silent. The Dornish singer was called Cariel Sand, a slender woman with copper skin, black curls pinned by lapis comb. She took platform after third course, lute in hand. Voice low, she sang Ballad of Exile, a lioness ship born over wine-dark sea, forging power in foreign land, returning to claim cubs. Her fingers coaxed minor chords, shimmering like candlelight through glass. All fell hush until final note drifted into rafters. Applause thundered. Cersei eyed her. Well played. Cariel bowed, extending scroll sealed with sun spears, sun and spear. Cersei cracked wax. Letter brief. Prince Doran offered neutrality in coming wars, contingent upon justice for his sister's death and fair treatment of Dornish interests. He also hinted at marriage alliance between Myrcella and Trystane. Cersei folded parchment. Tell your prince his requests find sympathetic ear. In time, dragons and lions may bask together beneath same sun. Cariel inclined head. I carry your word. Cersei waved to steward. Gift the singer a pouch of silver and lodging in Maiden Vault. Cariel departed, melody lingering. Herbal Ned Stark spoke first time that night. Alliance with Dorne will not ease reach hostility. Cersei sipped wine. It isolates it. Rose petals wilt when sun scorches from both sides. Wars breed orphans. Ned's voice rough. And crowns breed graves. She replied softly. Better I dig than be buried. He looked at her, something like sorrow flickering. Your father taught you iron. Did he teach you mercy? Mercy is not taught. It is afforded when earned. She set goblet down. Save your judgment, Stark. The realm forgave Robert's rebellion, though it began with murder of children and rape of a kingdom. Silence thickened. Joffrey's fork clattered. Musicians resumed quieter tune. Cersei leaned closer. Serve me true, and your daughters may yet see Winterfell's snows. Ned's knuckles whitened around knife. At length he nodded, though the movement looked like surrender of a sword's last inch. Midnight brought cold drizzle to ramparts. Cersei stood cloaked against it, gazing south. Lightning flickered above distant hills. She imagined Renly riding in exile. Renly's dreams of summer tours shattered. Stannis upon deck of flagship Fury, mouth grim. Robb Stark pacing at Moat Inn, banners wet with river mist. She pictured Tyrell roses plodding in perfumed gardens, and across narrow sea, dragons wheeling over Myraine's pyramid. So many pieces. Cersei spread arms as raindrops stung cheeks. She whispered litany, lion, stag, wolf, rose, kraken, dragon, sun spear. She smiled. All will kneel. Thunder answered, rolling long. She descended tower steps, cloak dripping. At base, Era waited with lantern. Your Grace, Maester Wyman, begs see you, urgent. Bringing him. In her solar Wyman arrived, scroll in shaking hand. Ravens from Old Town. Citadel records tremble with talk of prophecy, Your Grace. They claim Red Star bleeds, dragons stir. Our men of Azor Ahai reborn. Some say Daenerys Targaryen. Cersei snatched scroll, scanning. Prophecies shape fools who heed them. I carve reality. She flung parchment into hearth. Flames devoured. Let maesters prattle. Wyman bowed, though worry creased brow. Cersei dismissed him. Alone, she stared at hearth glow. Prophecy once haunted her. Wood's witch, foretelling her children's death, younger queen to cast her down. She had combated prophecy with action, yet memory clung like burrs. Younger queen. Was it Margaery? Daenerys? She clenched fists. Prophecy would break before her will. She would forge new fate, molten as wildfire. She turned to desk, unrolled fresh parchment. She penned letter to Queen Margaery of the Reach. Elegant script. Invitation to peace talks. Promises of shared prosperity. Subtle warnings of blockade outcome. She signed, Cersei of the Seven, in Lion's faith and realm's mercy. Wax seal. Lion rampant. Turning parchment to cool, she whispered, mercy offered once. Morning horns announced departure of Tywin's army. Cersei watched from Barbican as column snaked west, red and gold, glimmering under gray sky. War drums thudded hollow. She raised hand. Riders cheered. When last spearmen vanished along King's Road, she pivoted to tasks. First, fortress. She ordered masons to reinforce city gates, mount scorpions atop towers, alchemists to replenish wildfire stores. Quietly this time, portions sealed beneath Red Keep cellars for contingency. Second, fleet. She summoned Captain Rogar. Charters 3 Bravos y Carracks. Promise of double payment on delivery of grain. She commissioned shipbuilders along Blackwater to craft swift dramans, levying costs by seizing estates of merchants who fled. Third, succession. She drafted edict naming Joffrey Crown Prince Regent under her mentorship, Tommen heir of Stormlands once pacified, Myrcella betrothed to Tristan Artel to secure southern flank. Edict circulated to major houses with wax and lion stamp. Fourth, faith. She met High Septon, an unsteady man, appointed by Robert for tractability in Sept ruins still under scaffold. She offered coin to rebuild quickly, more to preach her rightful rule. She even knelt beside cracked altar for small folk watchers, symbolic dust-coated knees, but word would fly that queen sought God's blessing. Fifth, spyglass turned outward. Varys delivered reports. Stannis' fleet reached Massey's Hook. Melisandre, Red Priestess, preached him chosen of fire. Renly camped near Tumbleton, courting Reach Knights. Robb Stark crossed neck, heading for Twins Crossing. Dragons burnt slavers in Meereen, freeing thousands, who now marched behind Silver Queen. Cersei summoned council at twilight. Maps spread. Enemies array, she said. We answer each. Barristan offered plan. Navy intercepts Stannis at Blackwater mouth. Land defenses ringed by scorpions. Wildfire on tidal flows. The Elder Knight relayed memory of Duskendale, when Aerys' paranoia stalled decisive strike. He urged swift. Baelish advised sowing discord. Letters to Stannis, questioning Melisandre's sorcery. Bribes to Floran captains. Subtle leaks to Faith militant about heretical rites aboard Stannis' ships. Varys proposed whisper campaigns in Highgarden. Rumors Cersei considered renaming her daughter, Margaery the Younger, in honor of alliance. Hints of Tyrell debts forgiven if they oppose Renly. Cersei approved each scheme, layering intrigue like chainmail. Pycelle suggested ravens to Citadel with requests for maesters skilled in ship-killing scorpions. She agreed. Meeting adjourned, she walked balcony with Barristan. Will wildfire turn tide? She asked. He frowned. It burns friend and foe, a wary tool. She regarded him. I wield wary tools. He bowed. Then may your hand never tremble. Ned Stark requested private audience that night. She granted it in garden, beneath lemon trees imported from Dorne, lanterns casting soft glow. He stepped forward, chains removed, but gods distant. Your Grace, I owe honesty. My bannermen ride south to free me. Robb leads them. War will spread. I know, she replied. Release me north, he said. I will restrain them, sue for peace. The North cares only for its own. She clasped hands behind back. Peace bores wolves. They crave winter sport. And I need hostage to temper Tywin's zeal. His mouth tightened. You gamble with lives. Always. She studied lemon blossom above. Scent sweet. Tell me, Lord Stark, when Robert rebelled, did he not gamble every life in Westeros on his longing for Lyanna? Pain crossed his eyes. He gambled, but I counted the cost. And found it worth? She asked. Silence. Crickets sang tiny dirges. 10,000 dead, he said at last. Cost never worth, but sometimes war arrives despite wish. So we shape war, she said, stepping closer. Help me shape it. Advise on Northern mind, how break their will without drowning land in blood. He regarded her, measuring sincerity. Send their sons home unscathed. Feed their small folk. Respect their gods. She considered. Concessions that cost me little and win much. Allow Robb safe passage to speak. She smiled faintly. I permit envoy under flag of truce, but Robb must kneel. Not as yes. He will not. Then blood flows. They stood amidst lemon scent, battle yet unborn humming like bees. Ned exhaled. I will counsel him. Doe. And you might see Winterfell again. He bowed stiffly, left. Cersei plucked a blossom, crushed petals between fingers, inhaled oil. She thought of winters spent in Casterly Gardens with Jaime chasing each other among citrus. Tywin's rare smile nudging motherly warmth. Petals stuck to gloves. She wiped them away. Days blurred into tension, strung like lute string. Smithies clanged, couriers dashed, ravens wheeled. Reports piled. Baelish's coins turned some of Stannis's captains. Reach still hesitated. Freys demanded daughters wed for crossing. Greyjoy fleets stirred along Iron Islands, smelling chaos. One afternoon, Maester Wyman arrived pale. Your Grace, scouts from Stepstones bring word. Dragon banners sail west. Daenerys, Cersei whispered, pulse quickening. Ah, dragons overshadowed all. She recalled wildfire's dance, storm's fury, yet dragonfire dwarfed both. She convened council instantly. We face three fronts: sea, north, sky. Barristan stern, dragons small yet, reports say. Baelish, send emissary, offer gold to turn them south to Slaver's Bay again. Varys, or promise recognition of her claim to Meereen as sovereign partner. Two queens dividing world. Cersei tapped finger on map. No, I will not share realm. Pycelle stammered. Maesters once forged scorpion bolts tipped with freeze bark oil. Theoretically cracks dragon scale. Forge them, she ordered. Stalk every tower. Barristan's eyes distant. I saw dragons before, but cost is high. Nam Hashis. She met his gaze. Cost is measure of ambition. Night before new moon, she dreamt. She stood atop throne, but swords glowed red hot, branding lion into flesh. The dragon coiled below, wings shielding her from arrow storm. A direwolf gnawed at dragon's tail. A shadow with burning eyes strode forth, face shifting between Melisandre and the woods witch. The shadow whispered Valyrian word, Valankar, and hands closed around her throat. She woke, choking, Ara rushed with lamp. Your grace. Nothing, Cersei gasped, sweat cold. She pushed away a goblet offered. Fetch ink. She wrote until dawn. Battle orders, summons for archmaesters to research Valyrian steel ballistae. Command for gold cloaks to double watch on city wells. Paranoia whispered of poison. She signed each with furious quill strokes. 3 weeks after coronation, Blackwater Bay shimmered under lanterns of 2 fleets. Stannis wore galleys arrayed like fangs, and Cersei's hastily bolstered river flotilla, wildfire ships hidden among jackdaw shadows. Morning tide would bring battle. On parapet above Bay she stood, wind whipping cloak. Barristan beside her. Will they break? She asked. Ships break easier than men, he said, but men fear green fire. She watched water ripple black. Fear is Leva. Thomas. She called to young captain behind, signaled to lighten barrels. Somewhere below, alchemists rolled casks, dripping with volatile neon ooze along planks. If spark fell, Bay might ignite prematurely. She trusted their trembling care, fear guided. Barristan spoke quietly. If we prevail, realm may yet know peace. Peace is lulled between roars, she replied. He studied her profile. You wear crown of war, yet speak of peace as whisper. What then is your true desire? Lie. She turned, eyes catching starlight, to never kneel again. Dawn's first crimson smear bled across horizon. Drums rolled along city docks. Stannis' banners discernible now, fiery heart of Arlo glowing red on black. Cersei inhaled salt, lifted spyglass. She spotted the Fury, Stannis' flagship, prow carved as crowned stag stripped of antlers, replaced by burning sword. Queer portent. She snapped, glass shut. Sound horns. 12 horns answered from battlements. Echo rolled across water. Oars dipped. Ships advanced. Cersei descended stairs to pier, mounting command platform. Joffrey waited, face pale but resolute. She placed hand on his shoulder. Watch and learn. Arrows arc. Water hissed as flaming pitch landed on Stannis' nearest galley. Crew doused. Horns answered. Deeper. Drums thumping. Battle joined. Cersei signaled wildfire ships to hold position. Patience until enemy near. She watched fleets tangle like black serpents. Heard distant screams. When Central Channel jammed with vessels, she raised green banner. Fuse ropes lit. Wildfire jars catapulted. Searing emerald blossomed, reflection turning clouds sickly. Flames danced atop water, clinging to wood and flesh alike. Men leapt, burning, only to find sea also aflame. Smoke curled up city walls. Stone fissured under heat. Cersei's hair whipped, green glow reflecting in eyes. No, she murmured. Scorpions atop walls fired bolts tipped with freeze bark oil. Some found tar-soaked sails, igniting white and blue bursts, stunning men who believed fire only green. Confusion fractured Stannis' line. From upriver, hidden chain raised by city, winches snapped taut across harbor mouth, trapping galleys amid inferno. Stannis' flagship rammed chain, hull splitting. Roar of flame swallowed curses. Fury-listed mast collapsing. Cersei signaled forward. Rowboats bearing archers picked off survivors. Nets rescued highborn prisoners for ransom. Fear and profit entwined. By noon, water sizzled under charred rafts. Black smoke veiled sun. Stannis' sigil sank beneath waves. Rumor whispered he had escaped on small skiff. Face burned. Priestess clutching ruby glowing like heart. Cersei turned to crowd of small folk atop walls. They cheered, chanting, "Lion fire." She raised arms. The day is ours. Bells rang. In Riverlands, Tywin crushed River Run's host, At Twins, Frey allowed Robb Stark across only after securing marriage pledge. Renly's camp splintered under intrigue. High Garden still weighed. Dragons sailed slow. Yet, sails might veer at news of wildfire. Cersei descended from platform, boots splashing through char-lapping pier. She knelt, scooped handful of blackened water, watched it drip. Victory tasted of salt, smoke, and something acid. Perhaps memory of prophecy still lurking. She stood. Begin rebuilding, she ordered. Paint our banners where smoke clears. Night would bring tally of dead, dawn would bring next war. But for heartbeat caught between, she allowed pride to warm chilled marrow. She gazed toward horizon, where land met sky. Rain began gentle, hissing upon dying embers. She whispered to falling drops, to gods old and new, to dragons not yet seen. Come, the lion waits.